I see zombies. I see zombies. I see zombies. When I die, zombies, zombies. Are you a zombie? Zombies, zombies. Are you a zombie? Zombies, zombies. Are you a zombie? Zombies, zombies. When I die. Zombies in the street and zombies in the bars, zombies on the phone and zombies in the cars, zombies when you're shopping, zombies in your home, zombies on the train and zombies who are stoned. Zombies, 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 I see zombies, I see zombies.
Good evening. Jeremy Holton, music producer here, and the reason I'm doing this video at 11:45 at night, emphasise 11:45 at night, on the Sunday, the 19th of March, is because I now intend to read out a letter and talk a bit about it, which is going to go to the leaders of the main political parties and Mr. Nigel Farage and Mr. Tony Blair, and a copy to Her Majesty the Queen, and it all relates to Bob and Darkie, who are currently facing the prospect of eviction from a care home in Scotland in Lockerbie, because the home wants to use the dog as an excuse, saying it can't handle it, which is obviously absurd, and is really after more money. And I think it's time to write a letter, because the pen is in fact mightier than the sword. It works when you write a letter to people. It'll be read by various people. It will usually get to the person who you're aiming at. And the effect of reading a letter is that once you've said something, it goes into the unconscious, and once it's in the unconscious, it can't be removed. Therefore, it produces change, and that is why the pen is mightier than the sword. We need to write a lot more letters and think carefully about them, because they do produce changes in even the most powerful people. So this letter will be going out in the next few days to these various people I mentioned, and the people have been chosen. That also includes, by the way, Nicola Sturgeon, who is the First Minister of Scotland, and the MP for Lockerbie, whoever he is, and also my local MP, who is Angela Leadsom, who was one of the candidates for being the Conservative Prime Minister. So the letter, this particular one, is addressed to Theresa May, who of course is the Prime Minister, and will be going to Downing Street. So I'll just read it out. Dear Mrs May, and now Mrs May of course, and all these politicians are known as the Honourable. I think honourable requires honourable behaviour, and increasingly the behaviour of politicians has not been honourable. They have broken many promises. They spend far too much of their time spinning what they say, rather than actually being honest. So I'm asking for some honesty. So, dear Mrs May, you may well be aware of a petition from a man called Bob. Bob is actually Bob Hardy, and he lives in a care home called Burnt Foot in Lockerbie, Scotland. Now, it is strange that Lockerbie is a place that has had two of the most serious accidents in history. About 100 years ago, the worst train crash that has ever occurred in Lockerbie, and a plane fell out of the sky. And I would say, being a little bit mystical about it, I would like to ask the question, what it is about Lockerbie that attracts these sort of catastrophes? Because most people believe in what goes around comes around, but they always think that if something good happens, or good happens to their community, that is because they're good people. But they never ask the question, why do bad things happen? Because they're part of what goes around comes around too. Who knows? Maybe in a parallel universe, these things happened because of what's happening now. I don't know, but who knows? Science says it's a possibility. Anyway, Bob moved into the care home with his wife and dog, a rather inspiring character called Darkie. He moved into the home under previous management. He is 87. And I'll remind you that Bob, his wife and Darkie moved into this home and received a contract which entitled the three of them to stay there. And if a politician has allowed a loophole in the law to exist which can be exploited to get an 87-year-old put on the street, there is something very wrong with the people who are formulating our laws, and the laws need to be put right immediately to prevent that sort of exploitation and abuse from occurring. Otherwise the lawmakers are not doing their job. To us, they are failing their responsibility. His wife died 2 years ago, so he is still grieving. Who would consider evicting somebody when they're grieving under any circumstances? What kind of country would we be if we did that? He has dialysis 3 times a week. Somebody who's got kidney problems and having dialysis is going to be evicted on the streets? What would be going on if this case was to appear on television, where something like, if you don't pay, we'll take it away, or whatever that damn programme about bailiffs is. Anyway, after the death of his wife, Bob was allowed to rent a room. This was not a temporary arrangement, it was permanent, as it would be at the age of 87. Now, the new management are trying to force him out, and they are using the dog as an excuse, claiming that it is unmanageable. This is simply not true. This is about getting more money for his room, and it is unacceptable. Although Bob is in Scotland, this goes to the heart of what is wrong with the entire country, and it cannot be allowed to happen, or an alternative that works for Bob must be found, even if it is found by politicians. They hurl huge amounts of money at all kinds of things, and sometimes, as in this instance, a small amount of money should be hurled at this to make a statement that we will not accept this kind of behaviour. And if the company haven't got the common sense and the decency to find a sensible alternative, then it is up to politicians to do it, because we cannot allow this to happen. All over the country, throughout society, people are losing confidence in the political system. They no longer believe any of you. Do you believe anything they have to say? Because in the end, actions speak louder than words. I'd like to see some actions from politicians that actually help all of us. I'd like to see some words follow up by actions, and with real integrity. People have no faith that whatever words are uttered, any of you have their interests at heart. What evidence do we have that any politician or any political party has our interests at heart? This that is happening to Bob is the thin end of the wedge. It is what the Nazis and Stalin did, and it cannot be allowed to happen here, or the slope we will move on to will end up with the breakdown of society. It will, won't it? I mean, if you start evicting people at the age of 87 and you do nothing about it, well, we're starting to build up the conditions for a civil war, and I don't want one of those. Why would a politician want it? Because whenever they happen, lots of politicians die, so do something about it. I sign a small number of petitions because many of them, however they may be presented, are about self-interest. This is not. This is about how we treat people. It's about right and wrong. It's about what kind of country we want to live in, and it's about whether there are more important things than money. I believe there are. When petitions came in, I was cynical. I felt that only the most sentimental, emotive, populist things would attract the required number of signatures. That has been true. In the end, the country is bankrupt, and whilst I may sympathise with somebody who has a rare condition, I do not think the country should pay for this, because we cannot afford it. But there are some things that are right. If somebody has a child or a relative who has an obscure condition which needs treatment, then, like this petition, which is different, the money should be raised from the rest of us, not from the country, who just arbitrarily, because the politician arbitrarily decides that this will make a good soundbite, this will make us look good. It doesn't. It's just hypocrisy. So I felt that the petitions would be used in the most cynical, populist way. I did not believe they would really change anything. This would appear to be a motive, but it goes far deeper than that. This petition has yet to hit 300,000 signatures, and it may not in time for Bob because he may be evicted in April. If he is kicked out, if he is separated from his closest companion, I believe it will kill him. If this is allowed to happen, there will be blood on the entire country's hands, including yours and mine, for none of us should ever have allowed things to reach this stage where they could happen. We have been apathetic for far too long. We have not stood up. We have not fought for the millions of people who are being rode over every single day. And if we don't do this, it will end up in a civil war or worse. We should not have lost sight of what is important, and by our collective apathy and selfishness fail to understand that there, but for the grace of God, go any or all of us. Again, on the basis of what goes around comes around, if we allow this to happen, bearing in mind many people believe in what goes around comes around, then something will come round to us. We may end up with a depression, a financial crisis, something descending on us because we have collectively failed to act. We will, and we will deserve everything that comes to us if this happens, for what we sow or allow to be sown is what we will reap. That's a biblical quote, but it's also true. If we allow through apathy terrible things to happen, those things will come round to us. Everyone knows it in their heart, we just don't want to admit it, we don't want to say it. I am voicing it. We cannot allow Bob to be evicted from his nursing home. It was not what millions of our forefathers fought and died for in 2 world wars. We all have relatives who died in the wars fighting against exactly this kind of thing. We will be disrespecting their memories and what they died for if we let this happen. This is why I urge you to show us all you care, to break the protocol implied in the petition rules and act now, raise this in Parliament, find a solution. In the end, yes, they've come up with this arbitrary thing, you get 300,000 signatures and the petition will be raised in Parliament, they'll talk about it and nothing will be done, but some things are so important that the moment they come up and start to attract signatures and attention, they should be raised in Parliament immediately. This man will not live forever. In agreeing to the petition being raised for him, he took a huge risk, and behind it I'm certain was a desire to say enough is enough. You understand? Because he will be evicted if he can't find an alternative, and if he does stay, because perhaps money comes or something like that, unless this company is encouraged to see better ways of behaving, he may become the victim of prejudice and bullying and other things of that kind. Please find a solution. Do not allow this step too far to happen. Expose this callous organisation in Parliament. Send out a warning to others. Show the hundreds of thousands of people who have got involved with this that you care, and that this is not a Britain that will be tolerated by any of us anymore. Now, the point here is, again, that if this company does not back down, does not develop the humility to recognise it has made a terrible mistake, does not have the sense to recognise that there is a win-win staring them in the face which will actually help their business, because this very thing has happened. Apologising isn't that difficult. We made a terrible mistake, we're going to put it right, Bob can stay, and the whole world thinks what nice people they are. How easy is that? But if it doesn't happen, somebody needs to raise it in Parliament. Newspapers need to report on it. They need to become a pariah if they don't see it. Care homes cannot operate to the same standards as a prison, and the commercial risks this brings to act with a greater sense of social responsibility are the price of the security of income that this unique position brings, for most of us do not have the luxury of it. Care homes have regular income. Very few businesses have that. but the quid pro quo is they have to accept a greater degree of social responsibility as the price of the security of income they get compared to most of us in the country and indeed the world. So I've ended it, just yours sincerely, Jeremy Holton. Now, I don't know whether these letters will make a difference, but I'm certain they will be read and I'm certain they will provoke discussion. But I think they probably may well make a difference, because many of the letters I've sent in the past have produced profound changes from people at the very top days after I've written them. You remember when you go in and you say something to your boss, or you put a memo in there, and 2 weeks later he's talking about your idea as if it was his. That's because you planted the seed in his or her mind. That's what letters do. They plant seeds in the mind that won't go away, that go round people's heads when they're asleep, and they wake up in the morning and suddenly it's a good idea. With that thought, late night thought, thank you very much for watching this, and please continue to support Bob and continue to fight for him. Thank you very much indeed. Good night.
Sassy zombies, sassy zombies, sassy zombies, when I die. We may be zombies, we may be zombies, we may be zombies, when we die. Zombies who are drugs, zombies at the gym, and zombies who are dim, zombies on the radio, zombies who are stars, zombies on the TV, and zombies drinking tea. Zombies, 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 I see zombies, 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 zombies. It's fun to be a zombie. Zombies on the plane, zombies called Jane, zombies on the platform, and zombies who are bored, zombies at the concert, zombies when you float, zombies in the night, like zombies in the mud.